I'm Trish. Welcome to the Gig House Kitchen. Today we're going to make an Iced Bun Crown using a traditional bun dough recipe. So let's get down to it. Now, as always, there's a couple of things we need to do before we start. If you have an electric oven, now is the time to light it and put it on 220 degrees centigrade. And if you have a gas oven, you need to put it on gas mark 7. Secondly, we need to prepare the ingredients. Here I have 250 grams of strong bread flour. I have a good pinch of salt, which is about 1/4 teaspoon. I have 25 grams of butter, which has been slightly softened because I'm going to rub that in a minute. I've got 25 grams of sugar. We've also got 7 grams of fast-acting dried yeast. And lastly, we have 125 mils of warm milk, which will enable the yeast to work quickly. So now we're going to get down to actually making the bun dough, which is my favourite ever thing. So I have the flour in my bowl. So I'm going to add my salt, and then I'm going to put in my butter, and I'm going to start rubbing it in very carefully. Should only take a minute or so to do. Bun dough is really a bread dough, but it has items in it which enrich it, such as the butter and the sugar, and of course the milk instead of water, which is what you normally put in a bread dough. Now, it's not going to take long to rub this in because it's quite a small amount of butter. If you add too much butter, it makes the dough very heavy and it can be a little bit greasy. So it's one of those things that less is actually more. Once I've rubbed that in, I'm going to add the sugar. This is caster sugar, which is nice and light and fine, and will mix evenly. And then I'm going to add my yeast straight in. I'm going to take my wooden spoon and just literally give it a stir to combine it. So now I'm ready to put in my wet ingredients, which is really just the milk, which is warm, slightly warm. However, I think that I will probably also put in a little bit of vanilla essence. You don't normally see this in a bun dough recipe, but I think it just gives that lovely extra little quirky flavour to it. So I'm going to give that a bit of a stir, and as always I'm just going to add the milk all at once and give it a stir. I may need another little bit of milk. We'll see how we go. I've got a bit of extra over there because, as always, liquid is only a guide, and I do need a little bit more. I've left a little bit in there anyway, so I'll put that in first of all. The thing is with bun dough is that because there's extra stuffing, it's actually quite heavy, so you do want it quite sticky, because that will help it rise well. Now I'm going to put this bun mixture onto my work surface. I'm going to use perhaps a little bit more flour than I would with the bread dough, because there's a lot of quite sticky ingredients in there, i.e. the sugar and the butter, and it will be a little bit stickier than bread dough. Okay, so I'm going to put that on the work surface, and I'm going to just flour my hands and give it a jolly good knead. So you have to give it time and a bit of manipulation in order to mix everything together and develop the gluten in the flour. That isn't sticky anymore, and it's lovely and soft, and I know it's going to rise well. So I'm going to actually rise this twice, or prove this twice, because it's very rich and it will be nice and light if it's had a double prove, whereas with bread dough, I tend to just shape it and then let it rise and don't rise it twice, but this one I'm definitely going to do twice. In order to do that, I'm going to get my old bowl back, and so it doesn't stick, if it doesn't have a habit of doing that, I'm going to put some flour down. I'm going to put the bun dough in the bottom of my old bowl that I haven't washed yet, and put a little bit of paint all over the top, and put this in a warm place. I would guess, because of the heat of the kitchen, that's probably going to take about 15 minutes to rise. While the bun dough is rising, I thought I'd show you how to prepare the tin that we're going to cook it in. And I'm going to start off by greasing it with a little bit of margarine and some greaseproof paper. And then I'm going to put the base, the tin, rather on a piece of greaseproof and draw around it with a pencil, and then cut out the centre. nice circle here to go into the base of the tin. You don't actually have to put some greaseproof at the base of the tin, but I always think that things come out so much quicker, easier and cleaner if you do. Now I'm going to put that in the bottom and grease it again. Wow, can you hear that wind? We're about a mile from the sea and clearly we're having a bit of a gale situation outside. If there's suddenly a crash, I might have to rush out to just check what it is. So that's our tin ready, so now I'm going to go and check on the bun dough. I have the bun dough here, which is nicely risen. I can tell it's ready to shape because it's double in size, and when I push a finger into it, the dough will spring back. So I'm going to put this back onto the work surface, and I'm just going to, what they call technically, knock it back, which is just knead it again. What this is doing is actually redistributing the carbon dioxide. It feels really lovely and soft now it's had its first rise, and it will mean that once it's shaped, its second rise is much quicker. Now I've knocked it back, I'm going to form it into a sausage. As you can see, there's no need to put any flour down or flour my hands. So I'm going to make it into a nice fat sausage. I'm going to get my palette knife and flour that. And I'm going to cut this into six portions. That's in half, and then each one into three. This is going to be 6 browns. So I'm going to roll into a round, push into the work surface, release your grip. I'm going to do all 6, it doesn't take too long, and then I'm going to put them next to each other, and then I can tell whether one is bigger than the other. They need to be exactly the same size. Now I can see that's not too far out, except this one, which really is the poor relation. So I shall take some off that one and some off that one and pep him up a little bit. Right, now I've got the size exact. I'm going to give them one last roll each to make sure that they're lovely and smooth. So push hard, relax grip. I'm going to put the first one in the middle of my prepared tin, and then the other 5 I'm going to put around the outside. Leave a little gap in between and they will fill in with the bun dough when they rise again. So now that's my bun crown in the tin, ready to rise and then ready to bake. So here we have the risen bun dough. I'm just going to press in and I can see that it pops back. So this is ready now for baking. So I'm going to put this into a hot oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Here I have the bun crown out of the oven. So what I'm going to do now, it's been out a few minutes so I can just about hold the tin. I'm going to turn it out and put it onto my cooling tray, and I'm going to let it cool just for a few minutes, and then I'm going to show you how to make a glacé icing, which is a sugar icing. First of all, I'm going to turn it out. So I'm going to turn it over onto a white plate and then take off the greaseproof. So now I'm going to put it onto my cooling tray very carefully because I don't want to crush it. Right, so there we have it, there's the bun crown. And you might think, well, why is it called a crown? I'm not going to try it on, but obviously it does look a bit like a crown. Well, a little bit anyway. You just have to use your imagination. While it's just cooling slightly, I'm going to get on with the glacé icing. Now I have in my bowl about 200 grams of icing sugar, good quality icing sugar, which I've sieved, and I have a little bit of vanilla essence here. I'm going to put that in, it's about a teaspoon, which is about 5 mils. And then I'm going to put in some warm water. For 200 grams of icing sugar, we should put in probably about 1.5 tablespoons, which is roughly 4 or 5 teaspoons. It's very important that you don't add too much water because very quickly it can become very liquidy, and we want it to actually coat the back of a spoon, because if it won't coat the back of the spoon, it won't coat the bun and it will just run off. I'm going to put in, to start with, 1.5 tablespoons. Give that a stir. Already I can see that I'm going to need a little bit more, but as always with liquid, you can put it in, but you can't take it out. So I am literally going to add a little bit at a time. So I'm going to add 1/3 of a tablespoon, which is a teaspoon, and give it a stir. I can see I probably need a little bit more again. I know it looks a bit painstaking, but trust me, you don't want to add all the liquid at once, because then you end up adding masses more icing sugar, and then you end up with so much glacé icing you don't know what to do with it. It doesn't really keep. The warm water just allows it to mix a little bit more uniformly. It's nearly there. And there we have it. A lovely glacé icing, or sugar icing. Over here as well, I have some nice chocolate chunks as opposed to chocolate chips. And they just look a little bit nicer, I think, than the rounds. And while it's still warm, I'm going to pour on my glacé icing. Now this is where it gets so exciting. Now when I was teaching, year 9 used to think they died and gone to heaven when I did this practical. The boys used to tear back at break time while the bun crown was still warm in order to scoff it as fast as they could. I doubt they took anything home to their family. Okay, now you're going to find that it is going to probably dribble off a little bit, but that is part of the charm. And now what I'm going to do is put on the chocolate chips, which are also going to melt. Oh, one escaped. So there we have it, a delicious iced bun ring, warm and ready to eat. I have some family members I can hear scratching at the door, waiting to get in to eat it, so I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe. See you next time in the Geek House Kitchen. Bye!